Joe and Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. During our last live stream, we got to talk a little bit about a new Barbarian book. So please enjoy our discussion and review of that book right here. Before we move on to our main topic, we have our review for the week. So we're going to talk about a little book that I should have set up already. I guess it's hard because I was the last one talking. Good. We made it. We cut enough time there. So on today's review, we're going to be talking about Barbaric, Wrong Kind of Righteous. This is a one-shot from VaultComics. If you're not familiar with the Barbaric books, they're a lot of fun. They do these little 3-issue series from Vault. It's kind of an adventure feel to it. It's kind of a funny, like, comedic stuff, and of course, there's a lot of gore, as you can kind of see from the cover. But let's talk about the creative team. This is by Michael Morrissey created Barbaric, but this one's also co-written by Nicholas Ames, with art by Nathan Gooden, colors by Addison Roque, and letters by Jim Campbell. In this issue, this is a double-sized one-shot that introduces an all-new talking weapon, flail. Let's see. In this issue, it tells the tale of Sir Boris the Righteous, a paladin, and his trusty talking flail, as he enlists the help of Owen. Owen's our main character with the axe. On his noble path, there will be virtuous bloodshed. There will be a wailing protest. There will be 2 talking weapons, and there will be wyvern burgers served, for better or worse, with pickles. So, like I said, this book doesn't take itself too seriously, which I appreciate. But Jeff, what did you think of this one shot? Because you've been reading the other series as well, right?
Yeah, I've been reading Barbaric since the second series. I had to go back and track down the first series. I love Barbaric. Michael Morici, what's his name? Morici. Has just been all the stories are super funny. It's about a barbarian who has enchanted axe that speaks and loves drinking blood. So the more violent the barbarian is, and the more he slashes and hacks at people, the more blood the axe gets to drink, and the axe literally gets drunk off the blood. So the more blood he drinks, the more belligerent the axe becomes as well. And it's kind of like it's like having a weird sidekick that just makes fun of you the whole time. And Owen the barbarian just like, I'm just a barbarian, just he just wants to live his life kind of thing, but he's kind of forced to do good deeds because of the axe and stuff
he's
that
cursed,
happens
right?
early on.
That's his curse, to carry this weapon and feed it blood, only when the axe tells him to, though. So the axe can kind of tell if you're like up to no good, and that's kind of where Owen steps in. So he can't just kill anyone that he wants. It has to be prompted by the axe.
And I'm happy that they're starting to introduce more talking weapons. So in this one, they introduced the talking flail, which is a funny character. In the Queen of Swords miniseries, they have another talking sword in that one.
Yeah,
they've really been building out the universe for this universe over this past year. But yeah, I love all their stuff. That's super funny, violent, but not over the top. Like it's comic violence because it's barbarian. But yeah, it's just great. It's funny, very funny.
Yeah,
I would love to see some kind of movie adaptation someday or something.
I think this would be good for that. Nathan Gooden. So I'm just showing a few preview art pages, and it's just really good stuff. I love the pacing of how he's setting up the scene. This is an action page. This is just like a bit of a sit. This is the sitcom part of the comic book, which I really enjoy, where they're just sitting around like, where's my burger? And then she finally brings it out, and they're like, oh, but it's got pickles in it, so like, send it back, bring me the right one. And I love these panels here where like you kind of zoom in on the waitress in Owen's face, and Soren and the axe are just kind of like, it's kind of, when you go to a restaurant and somebody gets something wrong in their order, and everybody's kind of awkward, like, well, can I eat? Like, I got my food, or like, stuff like that. So, but we're introduced to the paladin. Here you can see the flail, and they don't really hold back on the violence in these books either. Like, it's pretty much very much out there. But I like that we get to kind of see the story of the paladin too. And then I have one last page. Like,
that's what I wanted you to bring up.
yeah, it just looks so cool. Like, it's such a good way to kind of display the reaction of Owen, and like you see this guy's getting cut in half, and you just kind of see the guts out there. But in the meanwhile, you see all the panels with the full action behind. So I don't know, stuff like that. This is one of the things that comics can do that I don't know how you would display that in another medium if you were to adapt this. So I really enjoyed this one shot. It's really fun. And it's pretty
And this
interesting.
comes out this week.
Sorry?
This comes out this week.
This will be out on Wednesday, yeah. So you should be able to pick this up this week.
Great.
And you should be able to go back and pick up, I think there's 3 different volumes of Barbaric.
Looking them up now.
Yeah. Highly recommend it. It's a cool stuff. So any final thoughts on this, Jeff?
Go buy it. That's what I would say. The artwork is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a great story. I don't think you need to read the first, like, it doesn't, it's not a super high bar of like jumping into, like, if you're what we told you now, like they even kind of get into it in the thing that
they do an exposition to be like, for you to piece together, like, oh, Owen's also cursed and he has to, work with the axe or whatever. I think Soren's not a big part of this one. I feel like she's kind of helping at some points, but this is really more about Owen and the paladin and the people with. So Soren is the witch. I guess she's a witch.
Yeah.
So, and of course, Vault always has really cool variants, including a Berserk homage. Which
I see that.
Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a review for Crave #1. This is the new book from ImageComics. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book, with a story and art by Maria Lovett, one of my favorite creators. Like, overall, I can't believe how prolific Lovett is, whether it's just sometimes teaming up with other writers or just doing her own work. It is very, very cool to see a new project. So in this miniseries preview, Crave, a mysterious app that promises to make your desires come true, spreads among the students of an elite university who use it as a hookup app. David, a top student, engages in a game of seduction with the unattainable Alexandra, but as requests to the app escalate and wreak havoc on campus, David and his friends' only chance to stop this spiral is to find out what really lies behind Crave. So, yeah, this is, first of all, this book is rated for mature, so you'll see that at the shop. But boy, Lovett really just brings this really interesting mystery. All this presented with some really beautiful, beautiful art. I think the idea of this app kind of being used in a way that maybe it wasn't fully intended to. There's the mystery of, like, where does the app come from? How can it do all the things that it's doing? And then also seeing how different people in this university react to both the request and also the things that they are requesting themselves. Yeah, it is fantastic. I'm really, really hooked after this first issue. It's an oversized issue, so you definitely get a lot of story here. So this miniseries, I think, is going to be, first of all, very interesting to read. A little spicy because, Maria Lovett's work, it definitely uses a lot of that to move the story forward and to kind of get you into the story. Like, it really sets the mood with a lot of those things that are happening. So I don't have any of that art in the preview pages because I don't want YouTube to take down the video, but when you get there, you'll definitely see exactly what I'm talking about. But let's take a look at some of the preview art that I do have here. And as you can see, just the pacing of these panels, the closeness of some of these things, the introduction to the Crave app on the phone, everything kind of juxtaposed with, like, what people are already using the app for. I think that's very, very fun. And just the introduction to our main character, David, right? Kind of a loner. We see him here in the locker room. In the meanwhile, everything's kind of happening around him. It feels to me like in some of those films where maybe there's something taking over everyone, where our main characters sometimes they're kind of distracted by their own personal life and they don't realize everything that's going on around them. That's kind of how I feel with these panels that are just kind of like intercut between all the actual university stuff and building out that world. So, and then of course we get to see just David talking to his friends and people that he cares about. In the meanwhile, all these weird things kind of keep happening around his group of friends. There's a lot of character development. There's a lot of interpersonal exploration of the characters in this book. And yeah, the mystery just kind of keeps evolving in a very enticing way because of the beautiful sensual art that you get to see here. So it is fantastic. I really enjoyed this first issue um, on many different levels, but I'm very curious about the mystery of what's going to happen next. So hello, everyone. Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for The Schlub #4. This is a new book from ImageComics and KLCpress. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Ryan Stegman and Kenny Porter, with art by Tyrell Cannon, colors by Mike Spicer, letters by John J. Hill. So if you're not caught up on the Schlub, I mean, go check out our reviews for all the other issues. Make sure you've been reading. We have been reviewing this on a monthly basis. But the pretty much the thing it is, a superhero named Cyrus and a dentist named Roger switch bodies, and now they have to figure out how to put things back together. Now, in this issue, Cyrus faced with the greatest horrors of the universe, but he has never had dinner with Roger's family. Can he survive the dinner from hell with Roger when he is summoned to Maxtera? Worm is closing in, and the world is in trouble, and Roger might be one word away from being executed. So yeah, this is a very interesting issue, right? Because one of the things that makes a body switch thing, a story, fun is when they have to interact, like when they have to pretend to be the other person on their own, and how they kind of work on that. So first we have a big sequence of Zeros like going to Maxtera to talk to his father. And of course, things don't go the way they should. I think Tyrell Cannon illustrates all that in a very interesting way. So we'll take a look at that whenever we look at some of the preview art. But then on the other hand, we also have Roger trying to deal with the family. So there's a lot of dealing with family in this book, which was not something I was expecting. But it's really fun to kind of see both sides of it, right? Sirius is kind of like this supposed to be this iconic character that has perfect life, super strength, everything going for him, but he still has a lot of responsibilities from his home world and expectations from his father, which parallels very much how Rogers has to deal with his family. We have a moment here where Roger, or I guess Sirius as Roger, uh, deals with his dad, and boy, it is tough to read. Like, it just makes it very difficult to read that they have such a bad relationship. But it is nice to see that Roger, even though he's kind of an outcast, or at least serves as Roger, still gets a little bit of support. And of course, Roger, he has some competency. So when he's being serious in front of his family, he also kind of manages to, like, talk his way out of things and all that. So there's a lot of moving pieces here. I think we're getting ready to have a big blow off, and that'll probably happen, I would imagine, in the next issue, just based on the pacing of the book. So let's take a look at the preview art, because Tyrell Cannon and Mike Spicer are doing some amazing work. First of all, I love how we get to see Maxtera once again. We get a little bit more world building. We get a little bit more of how their society works, the characters. Sirius's father, like, he looks like this almighty god almost, which is really, really cool. So very cool character designs. Definitely something that is very much over the top, but it really adds flavor to the whole superhero comic of it all. And then when Cirrus says something that's out of line, or I guess Roger in the body of Cirrus. I love this page. It reminds me of that meme of when, like, what is one thing you would say that would have people just like with daggers at your neck, from, I think it's from some animated like El Dorado type of movie. So really fun stuff here. But like I said, Roger kind of manages to finesse his way out of trouble, and it's interesting to see Roger in the body of Sirius connect with Sirius's dad, whereas he has a very fractured relationship with his own father. Now, on the other hand, here's kind of where we see the dinner, and man, things get awkward really fast. Like, if you're watching this on the release date, we are just leaving Thanksgiving weekend, so the holidays, families coming together, dinners can get very awkward too, because Roger's dad has a lot of expectations for him, but I really feel that Tyrell Cannon manages to capture that awkward feeling, especially here when we see um, all of the people being surprised by Roger's manners and like kind of how he's different. But of course, we as the reader and the audience know that this is serious, right? So he's a different person. And yeah, the fact that Roger's father just can't handle it, it's very very weird, but it makes for a very fun read. And like I said, we have a lot of stuff happening with Worm and on the other side of things. So yeah, I don't know, will Roger and Sirius be able to switch back? Do they even want to switch back? Will they change it all after this? We'll just have to stay tuned to find out. As always, we have a really cool cover by Ryan Stegman, as well as a variant cover, and then you saw the main cover from Tyrell Cannon and the team. So hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for BRZRKR Fallen Empire #1. This is a new book from BOOMStudios. This is written by Keanu Reeves and Mattson Tomlin, with art by Rebecca Isaacs and colors by D. Cunniffe. I am very excited to talk about this. I love the BRZRKR series, and I've really been enjoying these one-shots to kind of continue to explore this world. So in this issue, the lone survivor of Volus, a long-dead empire that once thrived, tells a tale of B's distant past and the death and cataclysm he brought forth. But what else did B find that could have driven him to such violence? The heart is as much as a weapon as any in B's arsenal. Created by the iconic Keanu Reeves, BRZRKR, and the Batman Part 2 screenwriter and Eisner Award nominated writer Mattson Tomlin, who also wrote A Vicious Circle and Batman the Imposter. If you haven't read those books, go check them out. Tomlin is a fantastic writer, who are joined by hit artist Rebecca Isaacs, who's worked on Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Money Shot, to bring fans more brutality from the ancient past. Yeah, these books are all about the violence, about the gore, but they use that very, very smartly to bring you these stories of BRZRKR's past, to explore this world. Like, how do you as an immortal get through all the time that you have done, because you have done so many things, you have lived through so many lives, you've touched so many people's lives, and in B's case, ended so many. So I wasn't very familiar with Isaac's work, but let's take a look at some of the preview art so you can take a look at how fantastically illustrated this book is. I love all the details. I love all the line work seems very heavy, but also with a purpose. I think that's what you need in a book like this, because you want to make it feel gritty. You want to make it feel real. You want to make it feel tactile, right? You can kind of see here, this woman's been through a lot, and as she kind of comes onto these storytellers or story recorders, like they want to just want to make sure to impose how important this is. That's why I love these panels of zooming in on her face and how desperate her pleas are. And then we get a little bit of a flashback to King Arnak and all those empire, and how things have changed, probably all because of they ran into the BRZRKR, and sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen when you come upon an individual that can be immortal. Like, obviously the king wants to use them to his advantage, but that's not the way V plays things. So yeah, it is a very violent, very interesting exploration of this empire. It has a few twists and turns that, if you pay attention, once I reread this, and you pay attention, all the clues are kind of there for you to figure out like where we're going with the end of the story. So it definitely ends in a really fun way that you really believe that this is a story kind of lost through time. So very, very cool stuff. I I love this character. I love what Boom Studios is doing, just kind of every once in a while expanding the lore. I believe they've released a couple of one shots in the recent months. Um, and if you saw the stream, you saw that I got a really cool local shop variant for this issue. So very excited to have that. But I'll show you more variants at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Swan Songs number 5. This is a new book from ImageComics. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by W. Maxwell Prince with art by Alex Ekman Lawn, letters and design by good old Neon. In this issue, the end of Anadonia. The end of Anadonia. Now, I had to look up that word. We were talking about this was my recommendation on a live stream this week, and I had to one of my colleagues, Josh, in the stream, he had to look up Anadonia for me while I talked about this book. So Anadonia means the inability to feel pleasure. So remember, this is an anthology of things coming to an end, different ends for different things, whether it be the end of life, the end of the world, the end of a sentence. So yeah, and this miniseries is almost coming to an end. The next issue will be the last one, but this has been so much fun. W. Maxwell Prince does such a really interesting exploration of these topics. But in this issue, via therapeutic hypnosis, a man travels through his subconscious to find his inner child and a way to be happy again. A comic that doesn't look like any other comic ever made. This issue is done in full collage art by the spectacular Alex Egmanlon, a veritable dream in 4 colors. The end is almost here. This is just one of many Swan Songs. So, yeah, as I was getting into this, like, I really wasn't sure. Like, the art definitely looks very interesting, and I wasn't really sure like what the technique was until I read the synopsis. So I would be interested to see more of Lekman Lon's work, because I don't know if this is something that, how much of it is like drawn, how much is clipped from something else, like how do these collages even come together. And I think the exploration of the story of like how do you have things make you happy again, right? What happens when things in your life just don't make you happy, don't bring you pleasure, don't bring you happiness? Like, what kind of life are you living there? So definitely very important to, like, what in this case our main character is doing, seeking help. But the way it's presented is just in an unimaginable way that I don't know that you can do this in very various media, but I think comics is such a fun way to explore that idea. So let's take a look at some of the art. As you can see here, and look, this looks like it could be just very much, very well detailed drawings. But as you kind of dive deep, you kind of see these layers, and you see a little bit of like something doesn't look exactly like usual comics. So it's really fun. The color scheme really adds a lot to the work. And then as we move forward, I just love seeing like everything, the world kind of come together as Albert moves through his subconscious. Like he almost looks like he's pasted in there because he shouldn't be there, right? Like you usually shouldn't be in your subconscious. And then of course you would go try to find maybe the last time you felt happiness, which is kind of like what this book is telling you. That's why he's seeking out his inner child, because as a kid, you probably had a lot of things that brought you joy, right? No matter the hardships, there was probably, hopefully, something there for you to like be happy about, be excited about, just something to look forward to. So that was a really interesting. Like it just makes you think a lot about, is there a point in your life where some things stop bringing you pleasure, some things stop being fun to do, and then what happens then? How do you move on to find other alternative ways to find those things in your life that bring joy? So yeah, really cool stuff, very interesting exploration. This is going down as one of the best anthologies I've ever read. I don't normally, you guys know, we don't normally cover issues month to month unless they are really hitting hard. And anthologies are really easy to cover that way too, because for the most part, you don't need to know what happened in the last one. So, very excited to see how this ends in the next issue. At the beginning, I think it's early next year that the next issue should come out. So, stay tuned for that. Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Grimm number 15. This is a new book from BOOMStudios. Let's take a look at the creative team here. We have Stephanie Phillips on writing duties, illustrated by Flaviano, colors by Rico Renzi, and letters by Tom Napolitano. So this is the end of a new arc here. So let's take a look. In this issue, the end of the third arc of Grimm will have readers white knuckling on the edge of a hellish precipice as Jess will perform a daring rescue, but will also need some rescuing of her own in her monumental reunion. But the lack of death in the mortal realm will end up being the least of humanity's problems if Annabelle's grand plans come to fruition. I mean, as you can tell from the cover, there's going to be some big fighting in this one. I really. So this third arc has been a lot more slow pace. It's definitely. I feel like it's not as been as linear of a story. We've been visiting a few places. We've been doing some other, like, I don't want to call them side quests, but I had completely, like, when I started this issue, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot nobody can die in the world of the humans. Um, just because we had been doing so much other stuff, trying to rescue some of Jess's friends, betrayals, and all that stuff that's been happening. But I do love that we kick off this issue with the Fates. I think they're very interesting characters because it almost feels like they have so much power yet no power at all. It's a very interesting paradox of these characters. But yeah, things escalate very quickly. I think Flaviano just manages to find a really cool balance between like some of these more violent moments and some of these more quiet, almost comedic conversation, like the juxtaposition of that. And you'll see what I'm talking about when we look at the art. The juxtaposition of those things is I think it's just very interesting, and it's pretty funny too. So let's take a look at some of the preview art here. As you can see, we start off in a diner. Since no one can die, like, this dude's getting beat up. This guy's over here taking his coffee, like, with 1,000 knives in his back or whatever. And then here we see the Fates, whose meal is interrupted, but very nonchalant, right? I think it's very interesting that it's just very nonchalant how, like, they are taking this all in, because they're kind of above everything, but also like smack dab in the middle of it. So it's really, really interesting. I do like that there are some characters that still manage to try to be and do some good. So yeah, it's very interesting. So this is even the preview art isn't even the big crux of this issue. As you could, like I said, as you mentioned in the cover, Jess is coming back. She's gonna face a large adversary. But what does that entail? What is, now that Jess and is kind of reunited with some of her friends, can they even stop, or is there any even hope to stopping this plan? I think this book, especially this arc, it's going to be a really fun reread. I think one of the things, because I am covering this monthly, sometimes I get a little bit lost waiting for the next thing. Whereas if I was reading this as the trade, like, it would just, like, it'd be kind of like nonstop storytelling and action, very well combined. But in this one, like, if we have, like, in the past, the last issue, I feel it was very more story related as opposed to action related. So whereas this one is kind of a little bit of both. So it's kind of good to find that balance. But I think within the trade, we will also find that balance, and maybe that's what the team's been planning. So either way, this is a lot of fun. Continues to be one of the most fun books on my pull list. Like I said, I am pulling this month to month, so really fun to revisit this world and check in with these characters every once in a while. So I hope this book finds a new audience now that it's being collected. Now that there's going to be 3 volumes, I think that's a very good outlook, because there are people definitely that are looking to get into a comic and just kind of get into it for a bit of a long haul. And I think 3 volumes is a pretty good, like, it's a great point to get to if you're a comic book, especially an independent comic book. So yeah, really excited to see what the team's going to go from here. I feel like the story could go on for years, and it could also just kind of come to an end in the next arc. So I don't know what the plan is. So really cool stuff as always. Beautiful variant covers. This is probably one of the books where I have the most difficulty picking out a cover, if not buying multiple at the end of the day. So yeah, really, really fun stuff. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.